This is a tutorial of BART's quoting tool off of web BART. So when you log on, you'll see the typical calendar page is your first page. And the quoting tool is pretty simple. Go to quotes, and then you'll see a list of the most recent quotes. So all of these current quotes are just mock quotes as we've been toying around with the capabilities of the system. So to create a new quote, you're going to click over here to the new quote green button. And then you fill in the blanks basically, just as we've been doing. So the client, in this case me, and then my client name will come up here and will populate the rest of this section. If it's a new client, it will ask you to complete a new client form first. Move over here to aircraft. We only quote off one aircraft, and that is 118 Hotel Hotel. Make sure you click 118 Hotel Hotel. It is the only aircraft set up in the profile views for the proper quoting. And then simply fill in the legs. So in this case, let's say a flight begins from Farmingdale, and let's say it's going to Bedford, Massachusetts, KBED, and it's going to leave at 10 a.m. If we don't know the actual time, we'll just put in an example time for the client. This one is going to be an occupied leg in this example, so this will be a domestic flight, and let's say there are 2 passengers. Then you add a leg to bring the plane, obviously, home on the reposition. And the date here is always today's date, so let's change that and pretend that it's the 14th. It will always default to today's date, so make sure these dates are correct. In Bedford, it's going to come back to Farmingdale, and it's going to come back pretty much right away. And we click this to domestic ferry. The options here are pretty much, we're only going to use domestic ferry and domestic flight, but we do have international ferry and international flight for when we do Canada trips. We don't have to worry about taxes. And it'll be 0 passengers on the way home. And this is the initial quote that will come up, but we'll go down here to make sure all the quote aligns properly. So these are the additional charges that I've created, and we can create more, and you can edit these. So the base charge of the flight time, and that's how much. So we're looking over here, you'll see that we charge about $825 an hour, and it's built on flight time, and so that comes to $1732.50. There are these landing fees, and you could edit them. Basically, we charge $32.50 per airport we go to. So there's no landing fee for us or FBO fees at like Farmingdale and White Plains. But there is, on average, $65 for landing fees elsewhere. So we default to the $65 number, which is how these two add up. But we can change these if we go to more expensive airports. And then you would save it. And that provides the current quote for a trip from Farmingdale to Bedford. Now we're going to want to send that quote to a customer. So let's save this first. And then we're going to send it. We always want to send just a summary report. And that's because the detailed report will include the ferry legs and other details that the customer does not need to see. So we'll send the quote summary report. So we'll build this email window here. And you could see from here, it has our logo at the top. It has quotation number and a Cirrus SR22. And you could edit these. Go right in and edit them. Anything you want to say. When we send the quote, so the customer will know who the customer is, and then the details of the flight. So departing Farmingdale 10, arriving in Bedford in 1997. And we can go in here as well and type a message. Andrew, here is your fare for Farmingdale to Bedford. Let me know soonest. Lisa. Before we send this quote, however, we want to remove this PDF file. This PDF file is not in the format that Hopscotch wants to use, so just click out the X and it will remove it. We will add to the bottom of this quote our terms and conditions. BART is working on that feature for us, but it's not yet here. So this quote is complete and it will be sent immediately to me. Now, if the customer decides that they want this quote, that's all great, they want to book it, we go over here to More, and we create Schedule Trip from the quote. And that'll just take us to the scheduling page that typically comes up. And here's where we could change the tail number, for example, when we book it. And finally, to send the customer an itinerary after we establish all of this, we want to fix these legs numbers to our format. So this is the occupied leg, so it begins with an 18 and 91. And these are obviously new numbers because they're now being generated by BART and not by RTS in our previous system. So we'll save that. And then send it PAX itinerary. And again, we'll remove the PDF and we'll make sure that everything is correct in here. We are also working with BART to add the FBO information here. We may have to physically add that. The PDF does include that, but it does not have the current format that we'd like to use. And that's how this works.